While I was out grinding to keep a roof over our heads, she was 2 houses down, laughing, sweating, and tangled up with the guy who grills shirtless on Saturdays. I didn't plan to come home early. The water main had burst at the construction site, sent half the crew packing by noon. I didn't even text her. Figured I'd swing by the Thai place she liked, bring dinner, maybe light a candle and pretend we were still the couple we used to be. But halfway there, something told me to skip the takeout. The house looked normal from the outside. Too normal. My truck was the only thing missing from the driveway. Hers was there. His too. His. Derek's. The neighbor with the sunburned biceps and the smug, open garage workouts. The one who grilled shirtless like it was a damn audition. The one she always swore was, just friendly. I parked 2 blocks down. Heart pacing like I'd run a marathon I never signed up for. I didn't storm in. I crept around the side yard like a thief, every step quiet, controlled, my breath caught somewhere in my throat. The bathroom window was cracked open, like it was inviting me to ruin myself. That's when I heard it. Laughter. Low. Muffled. Hers. A crash, maybe a soap dish, maybe a lie hitting the floor. Then the sounds that rewrote my entire life in under 10 seconds. Rhythmic. Human. Raw. I didn't need to see anything. My body already knew. My chest tightened. My stomach twisted itself into a knot so tight I thought I'd throw up. I backed away from the window, one step at a time, like walking away from a cliff I just realized I was standing on. I made it to the car. Sat in silence. Hands gripping the wheel so hard my knuckles turned pale. It wasn't rage. Not yet. It was something colder. Like watching your house catch fire and being too far away to scream. I circled the block 3 times. Pulled into a gas station and stared at the pump like it held answers. How long had this been happening? How many library nights and traffic delays had been covers for this? Every fake smile, every warm plate I left for her on the stove suddenly turned into evidence, proof that while I was building a life, she was setting fire to it from the inside. That night, I didn't confront her. She came home hours later, glowing like she'd just walked out of a spa. Told me traffic was murder, kissed my cheek with lips that weren't mine anymore, and headed upstairs to shower. And I sat at the kitchen table, motionless, silent, hands folded tight. Listening to the water run. Every second was a hammer, and my mind was the nail. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I observed. I noted the lipstick. The scent of unfamiliar cologne clinging to her skin. The smile that came too easy. And somewhere, between the hum of the pipes and the pounding in my chest, something inside me cracked, not loud, not dramatic. A quiet shift. The moment you realize the person you love is a stranger in your own house. That was the night I stopped being her husband. And started becoming her consequence. From that night on, something inside me flipped, clean, silent, irreversible. I wasn't a husband anymore. Not really. I was a witness. A quiet shadow drifting through a life I no longer recognized. I started watching her the way you watch a stranger who knows where you sleep. Tuesdays used to be her library nights. Suddenly, she was dressing like she had a date with the red carpet. Tight jeans, lipstick she hadn't worn in months, heels I didn't even remember buying. And her perfume changed. Not stronger, cheaper. The kind that clings to skin and ego like it's covering something. She started locking her phone. Whispering in the hallway. She still smiled at me like nothing had changed, but her eyes twitched when mine didn't. So I stopped trying to guess. And started preparing. Not out of revenge. Out of preservation. I couldn't go down with a ship she'd already jumped from. That weekend, I packed a small cooler, a few rods, and told her I was going fishing, said I might even camp overnight. She didn't even ask where. Just nodded like a woman who couldn't wait to be alone with her mistake. What she didn't know was that I wasn't heading for the lake. I drove 40 miles west and checked into a discount motel with paper-thin walls and a vending machine that only took quarters. It smelled like bleach and disappointment, perfect. That night, I opened her laptop. She'd gotten lazy. Her iCloud was logged in. Password saved. Like she never imagined I'd have a reason to look. But I looked. And what I found turned my stomach inside out. Messages. Dozens. No code names, no secrets. Just raw, open exchanges. Voice notes. Photos. Her calling him her escape. Him saying I was just the background. The background. I was the man building the foundation, and they were dancing on the scaffolding. There was one photo that broke me a little. Them, half-covered, sprawled on our couch, my couch, the one I bought second-hand and restored with my own hands. She was wearing my hoodie. The one she used to say smelled like safety. Now it just smelled like betrayal. I remember the night we built that couch together. She couldn't figure out the bolts. Said I made her feel safe. Yeah. Me and that couch, we both got used. I didn't scream. Didn't smash the laptop. I just stared. Like a coroner reading cause of death. But I didn't react. Not right away. Instead, I called a guy I knew from back in the day, used to play poker with him before he left the service. Quiet type. Efficient. Does private work now. No questions. Just results. I gave him Derek's photo, tank top, sunglasses, posing like an off-brand action figure at last year's block party. I gave him the name, the addresses, a few key dates. He didn't blink. 3 days later, I had everything. Timestamps. Hotel records. Doorbell footage from Derek's place. She'd been walking over in the mornings, hair up, makeup half done, bra in hand, while I was still on the 7:30 call trying to secure a raise. The rage didn't come in flames. It came like ice in the veins. Focus. Precision. That strange calm you feel before a storm rips the sky open. She thought she'd broken me. And for the first time in months, I knew exactly what came next. No more hoping. No more guessing. Just facts. And the quiet, lethal kind of justice only a man like me knows how to deliver. I made the reservation 3 days in advance, white tablecloths, soft jazz, wine menu with more accents than prices. The kind of place she used to call a waste of money. I told her we should have a night out. Just the two of us. Her voice on the phone got soft, like it remembered how to sound loving. Really? She asked. That place on Main? Yeah, I said. Let's reconnect. She showed up 10 minutes early. Heels, tight dress, hair done like she hadn't done it in months. Lipstick deep red, perfume floral, not the cheap stuff she wore to Derek's. This was the expensive mask, the "I'm still desirable" version. She looked nervous, but hopeful. Like she thought this was a reunion. Like the next hour could erase what she'd done. She smiled when she saw me. And I smiled right back, not because I wanted to, but because I was about to burn her little stage down, and she didn't even smell the smoke yet. We made small talk. She asked about work. I asked about the library. She laughed a little too loud. Said she missed this. Us. Said she wanted to find our spark again. I nodded, poured her a glass of wine. Let's toast, she said. To what? To second chances, she grinned. She really thought she had me. That address and a toast could rewrite the truth. I slid the folder across the table. What's this? She asked, hand already reaching. Just a small collection, I said. Of all the times you made me into a fool. She opened it. The smile died on her face one photo at a time. First the texts. Then the motel receipts. Then the photo on our couch. The one where she wore my hoodie, the one she once called home. Now it looked like costume jewelry in a lie. And then it hit her. This wasn't a discovery. This was a setup. You went through my stuff, she whispered, eyes darting around the room, suddenly aware that we weren't alone. No, I said calmly. I went through my life. And you were in it. Until now. She reached across the table. I don't know if she meant to grab my hand or shut the folder. I pulled back. You're done, Sarah. Her lip twitched. But, can't we talk about this? Oh, we'll talk, I said, standing up, napkin falling to the floor. Don't worry. I itemized the damage. You'll see it all, in court. She looked around like someone would intervene. But the waiter kept pouring wine, and the couple next to us just kept cutting steak. Because nobody rescues the woman who lights the match and screams when the flames get too close. I walked out without looking back. She stayed frozen in that candlelit chair, surrounded by strangers who didn't know she'd set fire to a marriage just to feel wanted by a man who doesn't even trim his beard straight. That's the thing about counterfeit love, it always fades under real light. And as the door closed behind me, I felt it, not happiness. But clarity. Because I finally understood. This wasn't the end of a love story. It was the start of her reckoning. You'd think that after that night, after the folder, the restaurant, the cold exit, she'd disappear. Crawl into silence. Maybe reflect. Maybe feel something close to remorse. She didn't. The next morning, she was in my driveway. Still dressed like it was brunch hour. Sunglasses, perfect hair, like the night before hadn't even happened. She knocked once, then let herself in. And that told me everything. She still thought she had a key to my life. Like access meant ownership. Like history meant permission. I think we should talk, she said, setting her sunglasses on the kitchen counter like this was just another Saturday. I didn't answer. Just poured myself coffee. Let the silence stretch between us like a razor wire. Then I leaned on the island and looked at her, really looked. And I realized, I didn't recognize her anymore. The face was the same. But something behind the eyes was gone. She tilted her head. You're being cold. I'm being sane, I replied. She blinked. Once. Like the word short-circuited something inside her. That hit her. I saw it in the shift of her weight, the way she adjusted her stance like she was changing masks mid-performance. Then came the guilt angle. You're blowing this out of proportion, she said. We were struggling. You stopped seeing me. I sipped the coffee. Calm. Steady. I saw you just fine. Every day. What I didn't see was who you became when I wasn't looking. Her mouth opened. Closed again. Nothing came out. For the first time in a long time, she didn't have a line ready. I pushed off the counter and walked past her. She followed, naturally. People like her don't walk away from conflict they didn't win. Where are you going? To pack a bag, I said. I don't sleep in houses built on lies. She moved to block the hallway. You're not thinking clearly. No, I said. You're just not used to me thinking at all. That's how you got away with it for so long. You're not used to no longer being the smartest person in the room. She moved. I packed. Quick. Clean. Essentials only, just enough to remind myself I wasn't stuck. No slammed drawers. No yelling. And that scared her more than any shouting ever could. When I came back through the living room with the bag over my shoulder, she stood there like she still ran the place, arms crossed, mouth tight. You're just leaving. After everything? I paused at the door. You left a long time ago. I'm just catching up. And then, just as I reached for the knob, she said it. You were never man enough for me. And there it was, her last swing. Not to win me back. Just to wound me on the way out. I paused. Let it settle. Not because it hurt, but because it told me everything. That this wasn't about love. It was about control. I turned back. Met her gaze. And you were never woman enough to deserve me. Then I walked out. That night, I didn't sleep. Not because I was angry. Not even because I was sad. Just, hollow. Like I'd left something behind that was already gone. Like I'd spent 5 years watering a garden someone else was digging up. I was planting roots. She was planting exits. And somewhere in the quiet, under that unfamiliar ceiling, I felt something new rise in my chest. You danced in the flames. I became the arsonist. I wasn't looking for revenge. Not the movie kind. No shattered windows, no torched cars. I didn't need to make a scene, I just needed clarity. The kind that slaps you in the soul so hard, it leaves a handprint. She'd built herself a fantasy. A little story where I was the background noise and Derek, Protein Shake Derek, was the hero who rescued her from the tragedy of loyalty. Cute. I was done playing a role in her fiction. So I did what men like me do best, I got organized. Step 1, money. I started digging through our finances like a forensic accountant with nothing left to lose. And what I found was a blueprint of betrayal. Receipts. Transfers. And she always rounded the numbers. $199 instead of $200. Like betrayal was less real if she could keep it tidy. She'd booked hotel rooms using our joint card, then quietly moved the money through digital cracks, like I was too busy or too blind to notice. She wasn't wrong. Back then, I was both. There was one receipt that burned a little extra. Dinner for 2. Steak, wine, dessert. More than I spent on our last anniversary. That night, I got her flowers. She got Derek's fingers on her waist. And somehow, I was the one saying sorry for being late. The phone rang like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't just lost the right to my silence. She sounded calm. Practiced. Logan, she said, like she was doing me a favor. We should talk. I think we rushed into things the other night. I almost laughed. You think? She hesitated. I'm just saying, maybe we could be civil. Talk things through. Civil, that's the word people use when they realize the consequences have teeth. Civil isn't peace. It's control dressed in Sunday clothes. I told her I'd think about it. I didn't. Because I was already thinking about him. Derek. 2 days later, I knew she'd be at work. I waited until the trash trucks cleared the street, then drove 2 blocks over and parked right in front of his house like I owned it. I didn't come with fists. I came with facts. And a folder thick enough to flatten illusions. I knocked once. He opened the door in gym shorts and a tank top, mid-protein shake, still smelling like pre-workout and bad decisions. Logan, he said, eyebrows up like we were on a first-name basis. Didn't expect to see you here. I smiled. Not with warmth, just control. Thought I'd drop by, I said. Man to man. His posture shifted. Like a boxer reading the room before the first punch. We don't need to do this, he muttered. I nodded slowly. I agree. But here's the thing, you didn't ask for permission when you started creeping into my marriage. So forgive me if I skip the formalities now. He looked away, scratched the back of his neck like a schoolboy who got caught cheating. She told me you two were done. And she told me she loved me, while you were still warming up in my driveway. Silence. Then I handed him a folder. Same one she got. But with a bonus, a letter. Neatly typed. Addressed to his wife. With photos. Just in case you thought you were winning something, I said. Truth has a way of killing fantasies. Especially when it arrives in an envelope with timestamps. His face twitched. Don't. I leaned in. Calm. Cold. You're not the victim here. You're the punchline. Then I turned, walked back to my car, and left him standing there, tank top, folder, and the sudden realization that his little affair just got a name, a timestamp, and a trail. Back at my apartment, I poured a drink and watched as digital copies of the folder hit their destinations, her work email, her phone, his mailbox. They played with fire. I didn't have to swing. I just lit the fuse and walked away. Some people want revenge. I wanted documentation. I expected fallout. Expected shouting. Denial. A middle-of-the-night voicemail full of tears and twisted logic. But what I got? Silence. The kind that creeps up your spine. The kind that feels like a held breath before something breaks. She didn't text for 2 days. Not a single, "Can we talk?" Not a single, "I'm sorry." Just static. And that silence? It wasn't guilt. It was shock. Like a magician caught with no more tricks. And that, in its own way, was louder than any screaming match ever could be. Then, late one night, my phone buzzed. Her name. I stared at it for a full minute. That name used to mean warmth. Laughter. Home. Now it felt like a call from a ghost. I answered. Not out of hope. Out of curiosity. "Logan," she whispered. "I didn't expect you to go this far." "This far?" I said. "You mean, telling the truth?" "You humiliated me," she said, like the crime was exposure, not betrayal. Amazing, how some people confuse exposure with injustice. I almost pitied her. Almost. "No. You did that yourself," I said. "I just showed everyone the mirror." She didn't argue. Didn't cry. Just silence, the kind that only shows up when someone finally runs out of performances. "I made a mistake," she said quietly. "No," I said. "You made a decision. Over and over again. You didn't fall. You climbed down on purpose." She went quiet again. She waited for me to say more. I didn't. Because closure doesn't need dialogue. It just needs an ending. If this is about the divorce, my lawyer will be in touch. If it's about guilt, keep it. You earned it. I hung up. 15 seconds of truth, and it rang louder than 5 years of lies. The next morning, I got a message from Derek's wife. Just 2 words. "Thank you." That was it. But it said everything. She left him. Took the kids. Moved out. Quietly, efficiently, like a woman who'd been waiting for the last puzzle piece to drop. Suddenly, Derek wasn't a fantasy. He was a divorced cliché with protein breath and no backup plan. As for Sarah, she started unraveling. Word travels fast in neighborhoods like ours. One week you're posting wine selfies and quotes about self-love. One week you're the main character. The next, a cautionary tale with bad lighting. The next, you're dodging side eyes in the dairy aisle. Her social media went quiet. No more gym check-ins. No more curated smiles with captions like, "New beginnings." Just, silence. Digital exile. And I started sleeping again. Not deeply. Not joyfully. But peacefully. There were no more whispered phone calls behind the bathroom door. No more checking my own reflection to see if I looked like a fool. Funny how healing isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just the absence of noise. Sometimes, peace is simply not hearing her voice on your pillows anymore. And for once, the silence didn't feel like something missing. It felt like something I'd finally reclaimed. Healing's weird. It doesn't arrive with trumpets or a turning point. It sneaks in the back door, uninvited. One day you realize, you haven't thought about them in hours. Then a whole day. Then you hear their name, and you don't flinch. That's when you know something shifted. But before that? There's just routine. Routine became my raft. Not to move forward. Just to stay afloat. Because sometimes, surviving is the most honest form of progress. Gym. Work. Long walks at night with no real destination. I'd passed the same houses I used to wave at from the passenger seat, now I just nodded at porch lights like they were old ghosts. People knew. Or thought they did. Rumors spread fast in places like this. But pain isn't loud. Pain's a whisper that lives behind closed blinds and polite nods. She tried reaching out again. Not directly. This time it was Carla, the lady who ran the community garden. One of those, every neighborhood aunties, who thinks a pitcher of sweet tea can fix anything. She just wants to talk, Carla said, voice low, like Sarah was wounded instead of exposed. I smiled politely. Then told her the truth. I already talked to her. For 5 years. She just wasn't listening. That shut it down. I didn't owe anyone my healing story. Especially not to those who only showed up for the drama. After that, there were no more messages. No more voicemails. No more what-ifs. Just distance. And for once, I didn't want to close it. I wanted to protect it. I stayed in the rental apartment longer than I planned. There was something about the plainness of it, no photos on the walls, no shared memories in the drawers. Just clean space. No echoes. No expectations. Just a place where the silence wasn't weaponized. I started therapy. Didn't tell anyone. Didn't post about it. Just showed up every other Tuesday and told the truth to a stranger named Marcus, ex-Marine, buzz-cut, gravel voice. Didn't offer tissues. Didn't do the whole, how does that make you feel, thing. First session, he looked me dead in the eye and said. You're not here because she broke you. You're here because you let yourself stay broken. It hit me like a gut punch. That line from Marcus lived in me for days. Like a stone under the tongue. I hated it. Until I didn't. Because he was right. I'd worn the pain like armor. Let it harden me. Turned betrayal into a personality trait. And yeah, maybe it kept people out. But it also kept me small. So I started unpacking it. Not her betrayal, that was her burden. Mine. The way I'd ignored red flags because I wanted peace more than honesty. The way I thought endurance made me loyal. The way I mistook silence for strength. Turns out, real strength isn't silence. It's the courage to say. That hurt me. And I deserve more. I wasn't trying to get even. I was trying to get free. Freedom's strange. You expect fireworks. A finish line. Something loud and obvious. But real freedom? It's quiet. Like waking up one morning and realizing you haven't checked her socials in weeks. Like folding laundry while humming, and stopping mid-sock to think, I'm okay. Not perfect. Not healed. But okay. I looked around my apartment, small, unassuming, quiet. A coffee mug stain on the table. A jacket on the chair I never bothered to hang up. And for the first time, it felt like mine. Every inch of it. Not borrowed. Not compromised. Mine. No tension in the walls. No pretending. No walking on eggshells. Just, me. And in that quiet, I found something louder than closure. Peace. The kind that doesn't beg to be seen, just lived. I started hiking again. Not the weekend hobby kind, the real kind. Out where cell signals die and thoughts get loud. First time out, I brought a journal. Figured I'd scribble something meaningful. Instead, I stared at the page for an hour. And then I wrote 3 words. I forgive you. Not because she deserved it. But because I deserved the space that hate was squatting in. Not for her. For me. See, hate burns hot, but it eats everything. Even the parts of you that were never part of the fire. I was tired of carrying ashes. Ashes don't weigh much, but carry them long enough, and they'll crush you anyway. Forgiveness wasn't about letting her off the hook. It was about cutting the rope tied to the anchor she left in my chest. She doesn't know I forgave her. She never will. And that's fine. Not every freedom needs an audience. A few weeks later, I donated the last box. Wedding gifts we never used. Frames that held lies with good lighting. Even the set of wine glasses we toasted with on our first anniversary. Gone. No drama. No fire. Just gone. I didn't need relics of a story that ended in betrayal. What I needed were reminders of the man who walked out of the fire and didn't look back. I made new friends. The kind who saw me now, not me then. The kind who didn't care. Guys from the gym. A bartender who remembered my order. Mark, recently divorced too. His story was different, but the ache felt familiar. We'd sit on his porch some nights. Whiskey, quiet air, 2 men who'd seen the worst and kept breathing anyway. You ever think you'll trust again? He asked once. I didn't answer right away. Then I shrugged. Maybe. But trust isn't the point. He raised an eyebrow. Then what is? Knowing I'll be fine either way. And that's it, right there. The win. Not moving on. Not getting even. Just standing in your own skin and knowing, it's enough. Turns out, wholeness doesn't need fixing. Just permission to exist. It hit me at the grocery store. I was standing by the almond milk, usual brand, same shelf, when our carts almost collided. Derek. Tank top. Joggers. Cart full of eggs and ego. He saw me first. And froze. Like a deer in fluorescent lighting, holding a dozen things he couldn't justify. I didn't blink. Didn't smirk. Just nodded. Calm. Collected. His mouth twitched like he was expecting a punch that never came. We good, he mumbled. I paused, tilted my head. Don't flatter yourself. I wasn't there to give him closure. I was there to buy almond milk. And just like that, I walked past him. Didn't even look back. Because that's the thing about men like him, they expect impact. They count on it. It makes them feel relevant. Silence. Silence is where they drown. Because men like him mistake noise for presence. But presence doesn't need volume. Just wait. That night, I cooked dinner for 1. Pasta, red sauce, a little wine. Window cracked open, soft music playing in the background. The sauce simmered like a quiet reward. The kind you don't brag about, just earn. And it hit me, not grief, not anger. Just this strange kind of stillness. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like half of something broken. I felt whole. A few days later, I got another text. Unknown number. I didn't even need to open it to know who it was. But I did. Just checking in. Hope you're okay. Maybe we could catch up sometime. I read it once. Then again. And then I deleted it. Didn't answer. Didn't even let it register. Because that voice. It didn't live here anymore. I evicted it the day I chose peace over plot twists. She had her chance to tell the truth. She chose performance. And I chose peace. Funny how that works. When the story ends, it's not the applause that stays with you, it's the silence after the curtain falls. That's what the weeks felt like. Not a celebration. Just stillness. Like my life was finally catching its breath. I wasn't rebuilding. Not yet. Just standing in the wreckage, hands on hips, thinking, all right. What now? No roadmap. No rush. Just the ground beneath me, and the fact that I was still standing. I went back to therapy. Kept hiking. Kept breathing. Kept living. Not loudly. Not for show. Just, for me. I wasn't performing anymore. I was present. So here we are. Not at the end of the story, just at the edge of the storm. The divorce finalized on a Tuesday. Overcast sky. Cold breeze. No drama. I didn't dress up. Didn't bring anyone. Just signed the last page, thanked my lawyer, and stepped outside. No butterflies. No anger. Just air. No applause. No soundtrack. Just a door closing, and no need to look back. I stood on the courthouse steps, hands in my pockets, watching strangers pass, some arguing, some laughing, some holding hands like nothing in the world could shatter them. And all I could think was, they have no idea how fast it can change. That's the thing about happiness. It's fragile. And it never leaves a note when it goes. But I wasn't bitter. I wasn't sad. I was ready. Because the man who walked out of that building wasn't the same one who sat in a parked truck months ago, watching his world collapse behind closed blinds. That version of me. He died quietly. Not with a bang, with a breath. The final exhale of denial. It didn't roar. It released. Like smoke slipping out of a room that's finally done burning. And in his place stood someone forged in the silence that followed. I still hear from people now and then. I can't believe she did that. You're better off. Man, you dodged a bullet. They mean well. But I don't need reminders. I lived it. I survived it. I outgrew it. Last I heard, she moved out of town. New city. New friends. Same patterns. Some people don't change, they just change the scenery. As for Derek, doesn't matter. He'll flex through life, trying to turn loud into strong. But volume fades. And ego's a prison with no doors, just mirrors. And me? I got a dog. Found him at the shelter. Big mutt with crooked ears and a name no one could pronounce. I renamed him Chance. Because that's what he was. First walk, he looked up at me like, you coming? Or you gonna stand still forever? I laughed. Out loud. First real one in months. Now we walk every morning. Quiet streets. Crisp air. No past chasing us. Just steps, steady, honest, mine. The past doesn't chase you when you stop running. It just fades into the distance, like a house you once called home. I don't tell this story for sympathy. I tell it because maybe someone out there is still sitting in that parked car, wondering why it hurts so much to stay loyal in a world that rewards betrayal. To that person, I say this. You'll survive. You'll bleed. You'll break. You'll bargain with ghosts. But one day, you'll wake up. Take a deep breath. And realize. The worst thing that ever happened to you was also the best thing that ever set you free. And when it does, you won't rise with fire. You'll rise with peace.